Washington become a state? Today we're going to look at the process that Washington went through in moving from a territory to a state. I'm going to have you open your composition notebooks to the Social Studies section or the blue tab. You're going to open to the Learning Target sheet for Unit 1. You should already have Learning Target number 1 filled in. You're going to pause the video right now and fill in Learning Target number 2. I can explain the process of Washington becoming a state. I can explain how it happened in terms of process and the people in power. Throughout the lesson, you're going to fill in the 5 steps that Washington went through to become a state in this little staircase. So let's get started. Step number 1. Before Washington could become a state, it first needed to become a territory, and it became a territory in 1853. Normally, any territory with a population of free white males under 5,000 became a first-phase territory. A first-phase territory had all aspects of its government controlled by Congress. A territory with more than 5,000 free white males was declared a second-phase territory and would have its own territorial government. Although Washington did not meet the population requirements, Congress declared it a second-phase territory. That meant that the territorial government of Washington was based upon the federal government. It had an executive, a legislative, and a judicial branch. The executive branch was our governor. You already know Washington's first governor, Isaac Stevens, because he's the guy who negotiated with Native American tribes to put them on reservations. The legislative branch, or the legislative assembly, and the judicial branch, which is the Supreme Court. So once we become a territory, our next step was we had to get enough free white males to actually meet population requirements to become a state. So if you remember on Friday, one of our ways that we went about trying to do that was the Donation Land Claim Act. The Donation Land Claim Act granted 320 acres of free land to any white male citizen over the age of 18. So that was one of the ways we encouraged white male citizens to move out west to receive this free land in Washington. Although we tried, it didn't work. Between 1853 and 1870, Washington's total population didn't exceed the 60,000 people required for statehood. In 1870, Congress increased that population requirement to 125,000. So in 1870, there was no way we were meeting the requirement to become a state. In 1887, between 1887 and 1889, however, we had this huge population boom. Population increased by 95,000 people because of the Northern Pacific Railroad. So, woohoo, we met population requirements in 1889, and step 3, we get the okay in 1889 from Congress to actually work towards statehood. So, step 2, we got enough free white males. Step 3, we get the okay from Congress. So, step 4, we need to draft and pass a constitution before we can become a state. So, step 4. On July 4th, 1889, 75 delegates, 3 from each of the territory's voting districts, met in Olympia to draft the state constitution. This all-male delegation, at this point in U.S. history, women did not have the right to vote. So this was an all-male delegation. It included 21 lawyers, 13 farmers, 6 merchants, 6 doctors, 5 bankers, 4 cattlemen, 3 teachers, 2 loggers and 2 lumbermen, a minister, a surveyor, a fisherman, and an engineer. So there was our delegation, right? All males. There were 43 Republicans in this mix and 29 Democrats and 3 independents. The real split, however, was between populists and business interests. Interesting. That's the split in our current state of our country. The delegates wrestled with hot topics of the day, including the sale of tidal lands and regulation of railroads. They established several statewide elected offices to share the responsibility of governance. They completed their work on August 22nd, but there was no transcribed account of their debates and word wrangling. They left it up to the voters to decide some major issues, including prohibition, which is like about drinking, the voting rights of women, and the location of the state capital. Washington voters approved the Constitution, woohoo, on October 1st, 1889, by a vote of 40,152 to 11,879. The voters chose to reject prohibition and women's suffrage, so women still did not have the right to vote. So, step 5. Once we had passed our Constitution, we needed the president to sign a bill declaring us a state. And it happened. On November 11, 1889, President Benjamin Harrison declares Washington the 42nd state in the Union. So if you are looking back at your note sheet, you should have these 5 steps for Washington becoming a state. Step 1, become a territory, 1853. Step 2, get enough white males. That happened in 1889. Step 3, get the okay from Congress in 1889. Step 4, create and pass the Constitution. It was created on July 4th and passed on October 1st. And step 5, we get the president to sign a bill declaring us a state. And that happened on November 11th, 1889. Yay, we're a state!